Ray Fisher, an apology. Will the merger change anything? Wonder Woman 84 is green, but what about that Amazon film? Next up on Just the Talk. Let's go. And welcome to the Flicks, Picks, and the Nitpicks. And I am your humble host, No 718. Let's go. Because we got to get into it right now. Okay, where do we begin with this one? Because this is one that I've been known to discuss. I come at this completely different, but we got to talk about Hammada first. First up, Hammada. Because everybody online, if you're familiar with anything, or you should be briefed up on, Walter Hammada is pretty much head of WB in terms of the film division in the DCEU, and the direction that they've been going in post Man of Steel is not exactly the direction that anybody would really like to, but in any event, he has become basically the blame for everything, and especially what's been spilled over into Ray Fisher. And for me, I never could understand why was it so personal for Hammada. If you go online, people really always inject his name. It's his name they invoke. Hammada this, Hammada that, Hammada this, Hammada that. And for me, like, especially when I was on a panel, and I've talked about it before, is that my one question was to ask, why Hammada? Because I thought maybe I missed something. You feel me? Because as much as I'm well aware and I kept abreast on what goes on in the fandom in terms of scoops and whatnot, because you know what I mean, like, I follow this shit. I'm into movies. I like to see what's going on. I like to hear what's coming out, and especially movie politics, because I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned. Because as you grow in YouTube, I noticed that a lot of things that we may argue on our side, we're guilty of as we climb up the business chain as in terms of YouTube. You know what I mean? When your money start to get more, and then you start to get more deals, and people want to start doing some sort of business with you and cross promotion, you start to understand that it's much more than just whatever you feel you want to do, especially if you're trying to run a business, if that's the end game. And usually that tends to be the end game. You understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, how many people are really in it for the love of the films, or they want to just grow a channel and be popular and get big? Because I follow a YouTuber that he's like one of the pioneers of this YouTube industry. I mean, not YouTube industry, but I mean in terms of like movie talk and things of that nature. And he's discussed that most people, when they write in and ask, how do they get on? He says just start recording. He says mostly the people that really come at him the most usually follow up with, yo, how do I grow my channel? And he says from the very beginning, outset, yo, if that's what you're here for, don't come into this, because this is not. It doesn't just happen overnight. There's no recipe. It's do what you love, and basically in a nutshell, you get there, you just get better. But my point being is, it's even that when people ask about getting on YouTube, it's all about growing their channel. That seems to be the type 1 energy, if you will. So if you're trying to grow it and you're trying to grow a business, then you're going to do and adhere to certain things that may go against what you initially set out to do with your channel, because you have to conform to meet the business requirements other people that pay you and do business with you and partner with you for need to. People think that just because you're your own boss that you don't have to adhere to some sort of rules. That's just out of your mind. You're going to have to deal with other people that you have to build business relationships with. And that may come with some rules and regulations. And you're going to have to be prepared to submit if you're going to want to get that bag, as it were. You feel me? People going to require you to have to do certain things or promote certain things that you might not be interested in. You know what I'm saying? That's just the nature of the game. And then you realize, oh, this is built on relationships and this, that, and the third. So now enter Walter Hammada. People keep forgetting because when I asked, I said, what about him? They keep saying Jeff Johns this, Jeff Johns that, and I was like, yo, well, that's Jeff Johns, and I gotta look up what bro said on the panel, because there was some interesting things, but everything I keep hearing always sounded like Jeff Johns. It was like, what did Hammada do? Because when you really think about it, Hammada was promoted. Kevin Sugihara was there before. He had the movie. The Josh Whedon was under. Actually, even before Kevin Sugihara, that was a regime before. Kevin Sugihara came in and got caught up in his own mess, which I think might have been around the time they were talking about Joker, but I think Hammada gets Joker credit. I don't remember if he greenlit it or not. He might have. But the bottom line is that Hammada wasn't really around for all of the things that happened from Josh Whedon cutting it to Jeff Johns bringing him over. He had nothing to do with it. So when Hammada came over from the horror verse, and he was brought into, his agenda was to shoot it cheap and make a bigger return and build out the universe that way and figure out what to do with what they already had. So he came to course correct. So you can't get mad that he's course correcting away from the Snyderverse when that was what was the idea to begin with. That's why they brought him in. Actually, that's why they brought Kevin Sugihara in, and that's why then they in turn brought him in to replace Kevin Sugihara. He had nothing to do with this. So basically, he had to mend this whole shit together. He didn't come in to take anything away from Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder was already gone when he got there. So even though I might not like the direction he's going in, I don't know how to be personally invested in all this venom for him that it seems that everyone has for him, like they know something that I don't. That's why I asked. And the gentleman just couldn't come up with an answer. All he kept saying was, I didn't know and I didn't understand, and which kind of, I didn't get why he kept saying that, because I'm asking you. That was the point. That's what was getting frustrating. If you cannot say that Walter Hammada did X, Y, and Z, then I don't know how to be this venomous towards him. All I can do is not like the direction that he's going in, and that was already how I felt from the beginning. The venom wasn't required, and that's what I didn't understand. You know what I mean? Like, it just got to seem like, you know what I mean, a lot of people just needed someone to get mad at, and it was like, why not Walter Hammada? And it, like, I don't know why he needed to get the venom the way he got. Now, in terms of Ray Fisher may have some personal nuances that he could suggest that, because if you're going to say, someone said that Walter Hammada was racist. Now, I'm like, racist? That's kind of like big, because I like, and dude kept saying like, I don't get it and I don't understand. I'm like, yo, bro, like, this kind of is gonna go left. Like, you can't keep telling me I don't know nothing about racism. You can't even tell me what he did that was racist. If you know so much more than me, clearly, I sound like a guy that can understand. But you got to explain it. And if you can't explain it, then maybe it's not racism. Maybe it's something else. Like, he could be a total dick. That don't mean he's an asshole. And that's what people need to understand. And that's what I was just trying to get to. But if you couldn't really give me a direct answer other than saying that he was trying to protect Jeff Johns, all right, fine. So now he owes an apology for it. Then what does Jeff Johns deserve? You're going to tell me that Walter Hammada, who got promoted to this division where Jeff Johns was already there from horror, where they adapt his films, and you wonder why he was protected. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't even his decision and he was supposed to protect the company. Are you kidding me? What was expected? This was his job. And if you expect him to risk his job for it, my question would be is, well, why didn't you risk your job? You could say it's a risk now, but we already knew that it was going to be hard to do a cyborg movie anyway. That was already mentioned. You wasn't getting your own movie. That's why they folded you over into Flash. They was hoping to do a Flash buddy flick, Flash first film, because you were going to be too expensive. They thought they were going to get a bigger return off of how much Zack decided to invest in so much visual effects. That's also part of the reason why they went to go get Hammada. It was partially because, well, if we can't make billions, because that's why we had no problem spending the big bucks on Zack Snyder, and we not getting $1 billion returns, but we're shooting $250 million movies, then we need to get people that can bring the budget down. That's what he was for. He figured, let's do smaller characters, which would make sense. But in a climate where everybody compares Marvel to DC, the Hour Man ain't cutting the mustard. You do Hour Man in like 2008. You do Hour Man in 2007. Fuck it, you do Hour Man on Netflix as a series. You don't do Hour Man as a full feature-length film leading DC. Not leading DC. You do Hour Man as a DC film if DC never even put out Superman or Batman. But you have those. So people are always going to be looking at it like, yo, but where's that? And you're not going to get great press for it. He was batting behind the line. The best thing he could do when he came in was, and remember, he wanted Ray Fisher part of the team. But whatever conversations they had behind the scenes really turned off Ray Fisher. And fine, I get it. You want an apology for that, I get it. But if we could really point racist-ish to Jeff Johns, if that's what you're going to say, if everybody got the information on him, and this is still kind of alleged, but I could see where they get that from with Jeff Johns. I could see where that could come from. Then, from what they said, I haven't verified, but I could see where they're coming from that end, because you had information. You had something. Then what does Jeff Johns deserve to do to Ray Fisher? Because if you were Hammada and you feel you ain't racist, but you want an apology for me protecting him because I was like, yo, that's my job. I have to. They're not getting rid of him. And if I'm not mistaken, it's possible Jeff Johns might have had a position over him or somewhere where Hammada had to play ball with him regardless. He was their comic book guy. Them two together. And he needed him anyway. He was trying to get y'all together. So what if he's racist? F it. Yo, just come in, just work. Woo, woo, woo. And yeah, you seen, yeah, this is how that shit is protected. I get that. So now he needs to apologize. Fine, for me to stand with that, what do you expect from Jeff Johns? Because Jeff Johns is still in the building. I know he lost his position, his titleship, but he was kind of moved over elsewhere. You didn't require an apology, but Hammada needs to apologize? I don't know. And you can't really say that it's him. He hired people within to investigate them. So, yeah, you would do that. You would do that. You trying to protect the company. Like, that's his job. That was his job. Unless you expected him to quit. He wasn't going to do that. I wouldn't have expected him to. The question is does he just got promoted to that? That's why I look at it. So it's not like he always knew. And if he found out, it doesn't matter. It probably wasn't up to him to fire him. Maybe Jeff Johns was being protected by other people within the industry, within the business. Because remember, he gets other types of credits, and a lot of these are his stories that they're adapting. So it kind of would make sense that they don't want to mess with what they believe is their cash cow in terms of stories that they can adapt to screen. Especially because he just doesn't deal with Batman stories. He's done Superman stories, if I'm not mistaken. But he's done Green Lantern. And they've been trying to lift off a Green Lantern story, if I'm not mistaken, based on one of his story runs. So you gotta really think it's bigger than you, Ray. That's what I'm thinking. I always looked at it from when I read it as, I don't think Ray Fisher, and this is it, and I know it's coming from a dude like me, of all people, because I'm not even in the industry, but just reading from what I read, because I was trying to find it, I was like, I don't know if I would classify it as such. I don't know if you would blame Walter Hammada, because it seems like Walter Hammada, this is out of his hands. Like, he's there for a specific reason. I don't think that what you expected him to do, he had the power to do, or he would have to risk his job to do it. And he's standing with his job. And I wouldn't expect him to do that. Not for us. Not for ours. So I just didn't understand how to see that. And if it was the conversation you had, yeah, at best that's a dick move. But I don't know if I would throw an ism on it. Because a lot of the stuff that you're claiming that was racist came before he was even there. And remember, at the end of the day, you still did say booyah. It'd be different if you quit. No, you fulfilled you did the job. You did the job. It'd be different if you walked off, sets of effort, I'm not doing it. Then I could run with it. Because otherwise, if the idea of just even saying it, then y'all should have been mad about this from before. Because they've been saying booyah in the cartoon. I expected him to say it. And I didn't even read Cyborg from the comics like that. And I know that wasn't a phrase of his in the comics. I know where it came from. It came from where he got his biggest boost of popularity. His popularity really comes from the cartoon. And that's what he got, where it came from. If you knew anything about Cyborg beforehand, if they would have came to you and say, I want you to say booyah, you kind of knew why. From the cartoon. Because people that grew up off the cartoon wanted to hear it. So when he said it in the movie, I wasn't surprised. It didn't do anything for me, but it was cool because I understood. That was for those that understood, and I understood. They expecting, people was actually wondering if he was ever gonna say booyah. Fans were wondering that. Fans, legit fans. This turnaround is just in recent events. But you gotta understand, and I don't know if Ray Fish understood that booyah was something that is linked to the character, whether you liked it or not before you. Just because Zach allowed you to have more input in building the character out based on those reasons, which are admirable, because I think that's dope when a director wants to build it with build the character with the actor. But it only works when it works, and clearly it worked well with you, because I really loved the Cyborg character even more, obviously more so in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like, I really liked the character a lot. Like, I wanted to see what they could do with him. Like, he's very interesting. Like, I was really curious, how could you make him interesting? And I think this was the marriage of the right director and the right actor and the right story for him, and what you could do with him. Especially, I was interested in what villains they would select for him in his own solo film. But the bottom line is that that's kind of what he's known for. He's not really known to carry his own books. He's more of a Titans character that got elevated into the Justice League. So he's known more for being a part of teams as opposed to being a solo character with solo villains. And I think they had a great working magic together, Zach and Ray. But when you bring another person that has a certain amount of time that cannot push back the date to do it, this is what I kind of expected. He wasn't going to want to really tap in with you on how to build out your character. Plus, he ain't even got that kind of time. And he's a dude that comes from working in the industry and did it with a more successful franchise. So he's feeling himself, and you're just a new actor. And on top of it, if you want to throw in the fact that you're black, that too, bro. Ain't nobody was trying to listen to nobody on set. He came to do a job, fix the movie, cut it down to 2 hours, and make something out of it. And he was trying to make himself look good, because if this would have made $1 billion and over, him, Jeff Johns and what's his name, Josh Whedon, was gonna be the new Kevin Feige of WB. Please believe that was supposed to be how he was gonna maneuver to make the coup. I don't care what anyone says. I do believe that Jeff Johns, not to knock him or hate him and whatnot, because I don't have no direct evidence, but just from what I've heard, I've always felt like that's what it was. Jeff Johns this was a way to flip the movie, flip the fans towards him, and then turn this around on his side so he could be the Kevin Feige of the DCEU. But he's not a director, or he doesn't have the history behind the movies. He just knows comics. So if he could pair up with the right director that knows the film franchise and that we could bring over from Marvel, it would have just been a good look. Josh Whedon and him would have been such a good look on paper at that time, especially when everyone was hating on Zack Snyder. But at the end of the day, again, I don't know how Ray Fisher expects an apology from him, but don't expect anything else from Jeff Johns. And they demoted him. They didn't really get rid of him, but they demoted him because they did what the most that they was gonna do. Yeah, and I think it was probably some bullshit, like he failed sideways. You know, they kept him around, but they're gonna still do business with him. And I get it. It was a more for the face of it. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have the power that he used to. Maybe over time, that's for now, and that's over time he was gonna get it back. Who knows? Well, one thing we did know is they didn't want to lose you either. You was part of the business. But I do get it though. But my thing is if you felt that way, you should have felt that way from the very beginning. That you should never even said booyah. You should have never even did it. It walked off, said it, did it that way. Now, if you still did it, then you can't get mad that he was like, yo, I know he is. Because you knew he was. And you still did it. Still did the movie. So did he. He was just like, yo, F it, let's just do the movie. And you was probably fed up because it more affects our people. And I feel you. But to publicly go out there and disclose that private conversation where you could have just walked away on business, because remember, you still did business with these guys behind the scenes regardless. And you could have said, yo, man, I'm offended that, you know what I mean? Like, there's people in there that's letting that shit slide. And I'm disappointed in. So I'm going to just remove my soul. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. You was out here naming names. And I don't know. And like I said, I don't know. I wasn't there. So I like to think you knew something more than I did, obviously. But from what you said, it just doesn't seem like, it seemed like you made you mislabeled Hammada. Like I said, Hammada might be a dick, but he that doesn't mean he's an asshole. But with that being said, an apology, I don't know. Now let's look at it from Hammada's point of view. Let's just say you said all of that. You just got promoted. You said all that. You did all of that. You said that just because you spoke to him on the low, like, yo, I'm trying to tell you right now. I'm trying to bring you in. Trying to make the movie work. Well, nah, I don't want to work with son. You feel me? He racist. Yo, I know, but we got to do business with him. You flare up and get mad at that person you talking to flares up and get mad at you for saying that. Alright, fine, get mad at me, but like, you that mad at me? You did business with him. You did the movie. I just got here. Let me make this work. We gotta use his films. We got to. If he's telling you that means Jeff Johns is out of his hands. More than likely, Jeff Johns is out of his hands. He can't do nothing. I can't remove him. That's above my pay grade. That's what I'm thinking. At that point, he was letting you know. At that point, even though I'm above you when I run a lot of this, I have to do business with him. Because we got things tied in with him. And even if he had the power to fire him, he came in when they already had things tied in. They were already negotiating certain levels of business with him that was out of his storyline. Now what you want me to do? Fire him and continue when we're in the middle of another business agreement? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know unless you could explain it better to me in the comments, or show me a better article where Ray Fisher really goes in depth. And I'm going to go look. I've been meaning to really go in depth on this because I really am curious to know, because I feel like I like to think that there's a real reason why you guys are this kind of mad and leveraging so much venom at Hammada so personally. It's got to be a direct reason that we could really like point out and isolate and examine and be like, yo, see, he said this, he did this, you know what I mean? I mean, shoot, we got, no matter how you feel about Rogan is, at least we got a video of him. No matter how they cut the video together, he said the word. So he can't say he didn't say it. Do we even have that from Hammada saying the N-word or something? That's what I'm saying. Where he himself did something, not he himself coming into something that was already there. And now I gotta do business with the same people that don't like each other while redirect this whole thing going forward and somehow get everybody all along on the same ship. What the fuck was he supposed to say at that point? And I'm not even protecting him. I'm really asking, what was he supposed to say if his job was to get you into a movie, the Flash movie? Because we can't afford to do a movie with you just alone. You cost too much with the CG. But we could get you to pair up in the Flash movie so you'll still be around. And now that we got a pivot, I might have to lean in on Jeff Johns because he's the comic book guy, because I definitely came from horror division. What are we gonna do? And you got fans still waiting, quote unquote fans still waiting on their Justice League, their Superman, their Batman, all of the rest of that shit. You feel me? That's all I'm saying, man. Like, I don't know, man. I guess sometimes I feel like you guys have a higher expectation of things, or think things kind of happen in such a small vacuum that you kind of miss that this shit was already in play. Hammada, he got hired to that position. He got promoted. You think him showing up there, he was willing to risk his job? I don't think so. He feed what he gotta feed. That was his shot. So an apology again, I don't know, man. I just don't see it happening. I don't know if it happening. If it happened, I wanted it to happen just for Ray Fisher to come back. I really do want. I think what he will be. He's a piece of this Justice League. He is a piece of the Justice League, and I think that he brings a youthful element to it. Even though he has the teen angst, and you can get Ezra Miller for the more upbeat teen, he brings the now relatable teen with issues. And he just lost his father. He could bring a whole lot to the story. You know, imagine telling a story where he falls for someone that he can't legitimately touch. Yo, like, you could too. And what if he was the romantic love story? Ooh, you know how every movie has that, like, this is the spy movie, this will be our horror movie, this will be our coming of age movie. He could have been the DCEU's kind of love story, kind of like the way you deal with Rogue, how she can't touch anyone. It could be very interesting. You could have gave him Vixen, created a whole new, you know what I'm saying, like, romance that wasn't even in the books, and make it work. Vixen would have been an interesting one to do that with. Because then now you could tell her story, get a villain that would make sense for him, maybe even allude to a Brainiac in his story. And say Brainiac sent some other kind of character and have him tied to Superman, because he'll definitely feel like a man that feels out otherworldly. Yeah, he relates to Flash on a youthful level, but maybe on an alien level because he's part alien now. There you go. Even though I know his relationship is really closer to Wonder Woman, you could also make him have a certain thing with Superman, that now that he's half alien, and figure out how to feel again or feel human again, all of that. Like using his hologram at times to camouflage himself, but her saying, "Oh, be who you are." Like, it could be real interesting what you could do with him as a character if they allow it. I mean, go there. I should say. It's just something that you can do, while also telling Vixen's origin story, or bringing another character. It doesn't matter, or bringing, but there's something that you could do with him to at least tell one story with him where it's centered around just Cyborg. It don't have to be a trilogy, but maybe you could build something so interesting that it could open up the door for it, or really allude to an even bigger story where he could pair up with, like, say, Superman. But like I said, Ray Fisher, there's so much they could have done with the character, but it's just a shame that we we probably lost out on it, but I keep my fingers crossed because I still think the Snyderverse is coming back, and I do believe that this is not the last that we'll see of Ray Fisher, especially that now that we know that he's been cast as Rebel Moon, they're gonna continue to work. That being said, I want to really pivot now. Will the merger change anything in with the WB? And I do believe it will. Yeah, I listen to all the scoopers and stuff. In particular, for those that don't know, there's a YouTube channel dedicated to a lot of WB intel and scoops. Syllabdul Inc. You can find that on YouTube. Just look it up. He's a dope channel to look up. I look up Ping Pong Flick Show, Dave the Movie Junkie. I listen to everybody. Mikey Sutton Scoops and Grace Randolph. When John Campy doesn't really talk a lot of scoops, but he'll talk about the legitimacy. When some of the scoops come up, he'll talk about the legitimacy of some in terms of track records. So I listen to everybody from all different types of purviews, so I could get a good idea of it. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. That's what I do. And at the end of the day, I do enjoy and find Sill's scoops credible, and it makes a lot more sense to me. Some things don't, but these are people who know people behind the scene. But for the most part, most of it makes more sense to me because it is what it is. But at the same time, I don't know. No one knows. So we just listen to the scoops. But based off the scoops and also what has come out, and what has been scooped that has come out, like the Snyder Cut and things of that nature, I'm more inclined to believe that the merger will change a lot of things. And just even on general principle, anytime mergers happen, people lose jobs. That's just the game of it, because they want to bring their own people. The first thing you want to do is save money and downsize, merge certain departments that don't need to be separate, kill certain departments that don't need to be there. And we could, if I could recoup going in within the first 6 months as salvage by way of cuts $1 million, I'm already going into the year million. I cut $1 million out of it. Fine. Now, what can I do to make strong flips? Well, first things first, we already know they want to mend relationships. You want to mend relationships with Zack Snyder, because what if Zack Snyder only has like a 2-year, I believe, exclusive deal with Netflix. This Warner Brothers Discovery wants to make these relationships, make these directive relationships again. Nolan left. You don't want to lose Ben Affleck, because Ben Affleck had a horrible relationship with, time filming. And it was business and all other types of reasons. Zaslav wants to come in and mend all relationships from the very beginning and reset everything. That doesn't mean that he's going to jump into the Snyderverse. That means that he might be wanting to do something down the line with Snyder that ain't got nothing to do with the Snyderverse. But at the same time, I do believe it will. Because I think that they're going to find a way to make this multiverse work. Because now that Marvel is making it work, you're going to try to find a way to make what you have work. The multiverse will make what you have work. But you're going to have to organize it right. And like others have said, create certain imprints. And it's going to have to run it like the comics used to. This is going to be our run of comics. This is going to be our run of comics. The Astonishing X-Men. This is going to be this. This is going to be that. And this is what I believe they're going to do. I think Marvel will enlist a level of that because they already have the pieces to do it. I think Sony will fully embrace it because they need to, because they want, all they have is Spider-Man, so they're going to milk the well dry. And they already have pre-existing franchises there. They're going to do what they can with that. Fine. DC, they've been all over the place trying so many different things that now they're having splintered fandoms. They may have to lean into that and make different labels for different fandoms. So Snyder Verse will follow this label of Snyder films, etc. A lot of people have discussed this before and pontificated on the possibility of this, and I do believe that that's the direction in some variation they will go. Like, give them certain lanes. Some people assume that it was just going to be streaming will have this universe will, and you'll have a cinematic universe and a streaming universe. That doesn't seem to be the case. They already have like a streaming universe already started. So if Zack Snyder goes there, he will have to have something separate on streaming, and it could get a little bit like, now people will be like, which is which? So you want to have a certain labeled universe in the front, like Zack Snyder's Justice League. It might be Zack Snyder's this, something in front of it, Black Label series, so you know which one is which, and then we'll take it from there. It'll be a little difficult to do it with because some of these actors cross-pollinate. So now how are you going to go about that? Because now if these characters are going to be playing different variations of their characters and different stories, and that's just going to be a little difficult. So you're going to have to make certain characters exclusive, and some other characters can no longer show up into their universes just so they could focus on whatever they could focus on, because it's going to be crazy having two different Aquamans standalones in two different universes. Unless Aquaman will be his own universe, and then again you're gonna have to figure that one out and iron that one out. But they do have roads they could go in. They're just gonna have to figure out how to detangle it without making this confusing, no matter what direction or directions you decide to go forward with. But I do believe the merger will change everything, and it would, because most mergers do. That's just how that shit goes. People lose jobs, things change around. But that being said, let's talk Wonder Woman. And I don't know why I said Wonder Woman 84, but Wonder Woman 4 is green. So with Wonder Woman 4 being green, what about that Amazon movie? Because no one's talking about that Amazon movie. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's gonna come out. I think that's a dub. I think it weighs heavy on whether or not Wonder Woman 4 does well. If Wonder Woman 4 does well, then you will get a Amazon film. It's possible. More than likely directed by someone else while giving her a producer credit. I doubt, depending on how critics take in Wonder Woman 4, Wonder Woman 3. That will either buoy or further sink her possibilities on how influential her story will be in it. In other words, she may write the bare bones, but the actual story will be written by another director, or she's gonna have gross oversight on an Amazon film based on how well Wonder Woman 3 does. And if Wonder Woman 3 does less than 1, and is it, I mean, it's less than 1, less than 1 and critically destroyed, she'll just get a producer credit, if that, and only that, if there will be an Amazon film. And by then, they may just consider, like, this is going to further lessen the possibility of them going further with this rendition of the universe. Or or it could push everything towards Zack Snyder handling these characters from then forward. I mean, like I said, we're in a very shaky way with WB and how they handle things. But again, I don't think the Amazon movie is as likely as before to come out, because confidence in Patty Jenkins has dropped significantly. And even if this movie does good, it has to be exceptional for them to keep Patty Jenkins in high grace. Now, she can even out if it does pretty just cool. They'll go with the new director, probably Catherine Bigelow. Oh, actually, I think they might go back to her, even though I think she was looked to first before they went and got Patty. But that being said, also it depends on what movie Patty does after Wonder Woman 3. If she does anything, I think, whatever Patty Jenkins does, because Rogue One, I don't think it's gonna Rogue Squadron isn't gonna come out till after Wonder Woman 3. I think her next movie is Wonder Woman 3 because they canceled Cleopatra. That's a dub. Till Wonder Woman 3 comes out, unless she does a small indie film, she won't do another big budget film until Wonder Woman 3 comes out. No one's trusting her with another one, because she's 1 for 1 now. And it wasn't like you caught an L. You completely bombed in every way possible. Forget the fact that it went straight to the critics killed it. The fact that people don't like it. People look at you different now. They were really betting on you. And now that Wonder Woman 84 hasn't done good at all in terms of critics, because it wasn't going to make as much money, but I don't know if it really buoyed the subscription, but you can't really blame her as much for that part. It's all about the viewing. Just look at the views, and they know how successful it is just by the views. And I don't think the views were there. The repeat viewings, all of that. Amazon movies, it's pretty much not gonna happen until we figure out how Wonder Woman 3 will be. So Wonder Woman 3 will be the only way that she can vindicate herself. And fingers crossed, because I like Patty. I like the first movie a lot. She needs her team. She kicked off Zack Snyder. The team that she had from Zack Snyder that was around her, she got rid of. You know what I mean? Unless the studio did. From what I understood, she got rid of them. And I already understood what that was about. It was about her saying, all right, fine. They don't like Snyder. I know what I'm going to do. And she felt like she could do the movie closer to a Christopher Reeves, and just wasn't cutting the mustard. She had no edge. Diana had edge in Wonder Woman 80, the first Wonder Woman. She still had that edge that she, even though she was a little bit more, because this was her first film. I mean, this was basically her origin story. So the level of badassery wasn't as much as she was in Wonder Woman, as in BVS, but you saw it there. She was a warrior. In this one, she wasn't exactly a warrior. And it was bad enough you had to retcon what was already said and stated in BVS just to do it, just to give us this. So I just don't see it. But let me know in the comments below. Do you guys see it? Do you guys believe there's going to be an Amazon film? Leave it in the comments below, man. I'm really interested, man. Let's discuss it, man. Let's chop it up. Otherwise, that's it for this episode of just the talk. And as always, you already know what to do. Jump with the talk and get in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. See you next time. And as always, I have a better outro. Chill.